When I started beekeeping 10 years ago, I bought a package of bees and they had a brand new hive. To help get them started, it was May. To help get them started, we had some cool weather. I bought some Domino cane sugar and I made some syrup and I fed them syrup. And I've been using Domino cane sugar ever since then, up until, well, actually I used some during the winter. Back then, 10 years ago, you could buy a 10-pound bag of Domino cane sugar for $4.98. And then a couple years ago, it was $6.13. But starting last year, it was $8.36 for a 10-pound bag. So I did not feed syrup to my bees last fall. It would have been nearly $2,000 because in 2021, I had a little over 150 colonies and I fed them syrup, and I know I spent over $1,000. Actually, I didn't really want to add it up because I didn't want to shock myself. And then I lost a third of those colonies the following spring because they wouldn't restart. So I didn't want to do the same thing again, spend money on sugar and have losses and end up with a bunch of frames of honey. So what I did last fall, again, I did not feed them syrup. I took all my extra honey supers. I separated all the frames that weren't full of honey, put them in another medium, and then when the commercial beekeepers were gone, end of October, either end of October, early November, I had all these mediums with partial frames of honey on a cart. And I wheeled it out to my property outside, and within a few hours, the bees found them. And I didn't video it because it's not really a good practice because you end up promoting robbing, but it's cheaper doing that than it is to buy sugar. So what happens with, towards the end of summer, you know, your queen has done a lot of brood, and there's a lot of brood in the hive, in the deeps. So towards the end of summer, there's not much nectar anymore. And if you feed them syrup, they will fill these frames as they leave them, as the brood hatches, and the queen does not do any more eggs in those cells. They will fill them with syrup, and you end up with maybe a deep and a half of honey. So therefore, you know you'd have enough honey. So what I had to do was I didn't feed them syrup. So I knew they were going to empty these out. And I took away the upper medium. Most of my colonies had two, and made sure the top medium, or the bottom, which would be the top of the hive, was full of honey. I made sure going into winter it was full of honey. And I was lucky that last winter we had a lot of warm spells. I could actually go through outside, check a colony, and actually add frames of honey during their cleansing flights. So I lost one colony that was inside that I didn't catch. I think it got robbed late fall, early winter, and they didn't have enough honey. And it was sometime in January when I realized there were no bees in that hive were alive. They ran out of honey. It was the only one. All the colonies that I had outside, none of them ran out of honey. And here it is, April 6th. And I'm going to be doing splits next month. And I'm kind of wondering, am I going to have enough honey to do that? See, there's a pollen substitute. I had some pollen substitute left over from last year that bees didn't take it last winter. A year ago, you know, it was too cold in the spring. They didn't take it last spring either. So I had some left over. I didn't have to buy any pollen substitute. So let me show you what these frames look like. And I don't kill queens if they're doing well. Like for instance, this paper here. The red ones are 2020 queens. So these are the ones that didn't make it through winter. I still have a few, and if they make it till the beginning of summer, they'll be close. That'll be their fourth summer. So I don't kill my queens. I don't requeen basically. I let the colony do what it's going to do, and a lot of colonies fail to produce a new queen towards the end of summer. So we'll get back to what happens when you don't feed your colonies syrup. What happens to the hive, the frames? Well, they're still collecting pollen, and you're going to end up with a lot of frames that have pollen on it. And here, this is probably a colony that died out. That's got some dead brood in it. You see, you got some pollen there. Some of them have completely full of pollen. But anyway, this is a perfect place for wax moths. So I'm in a rush. There's one right there with good pollen on it. I'm on a rush to get this stuff down in my cellar. There's another one with a lot of pollen on it. Because it's supposed to warm up next week, and shortly after that, I'm sure we're going to have wax moths, so I still have to go through these. This is the problem with my system, using these insulated filters here. I turned my regular deep into a 5-frame nuke, but that means I have to find a place for all these frames, and I end up with frames that don't have deeps anymore, and I separate the ones that are brown with the ones that aren't brown. I don't have to worry about this one very much with wax moths. So what am I going to do with these? You have to put them someplace where the wax moths can't get to. And over the last few years, here's my puppy. I'll show you. This is my basement here, my mechanical room, and this cellar door. Eventually, I'm going to have a roof going all the way across to my house because I'm getting tired of opening this up during the rain when I need to do something, get something in here, and it gets wet. So having a roof over this would be nice. So down here, this is my cellar. This is the only place that I have that wax moths can't get to. And I showed this a few years ago in a video. And I'll stack all these in here. And I'm running out of room if I keep expanding, I'm running out of room. And I'm, like I said, I don't have enough deeps. I have boxes and stuff. But anyway, I've got to get them all in here before the wax moths start flying around. So let me show you something else. See, I'm adding on to my house, my garage. This is going to be a basement, and I'm going to have a stairway here. And when I do this basement, it's going to be black. And then I'm going to have a floor. And I'm going to make sure, I'm going to caulk every little teeny hole and make sure no bugs can get into this basement. And then when I have a colony that dies or whatever, I remove a colony from a hive, I'm going to put the hive down here in this basement. And I should have, it's going to be about 20 by 20. I should have enough room to separate things, mediums and deeps and stuff. Because I've been wasting a lot of time now. I'll show you. This is a 10 by 20 shed. Insulated. And we were supposed to have a cold winter, so I'd move stuff out and make sure that I have room for the colonies that are having issues because they're getting small from the toxic chemicals. So I moved a bunch of stuff out, put it in my garage, and then after winter here a few weeks ago, I moved everything back in, and now I'm separating all the frames that a wax moth could get into because I have a garage door here, and it would be impossible for me to keep wax moths out. I can't keep the wax moths out of here. So this is why I spend too much time moving things from one place to another. Time and effort, exhausting myself. Where if I just had it moved or set it in a certain place where I didn't have to move it again, it would be more efficient for me to continue adding number of colonies to my operation. You don't realize how much stuff you have until you start moving it around from one place to another. I can do 200 plus hives. I'm pretty close to having 250. Maybe this year I'll build some more, and I'm going to have to if I get that many colonies. So I would have liked to make syrup last fall for the bees. It would have been better because I would know that I'd have enough frames of honey for my mating nukes. So if I come to the point where I don't have enough honey, I'm going to have to put syrup on them. Because if I can't come up with... What I would do is I'd put a medium frame in here in between two deep frames, medium frame of honey. And then some of these, and if I didn't have any honey, no medium frames left of honey, then I'd have to put syrup, and then they have pollen on here, but you can always use pollen substitute. So basically that's what happens when you don't feed syrup to your colonies in the fall. You don't have deep frames of honey. I had like maybe 1% of my deep frames actually had honey on it, and I've been putting them in my colonies during winter and spring now, but I don't have anything to do any mating nukes with, so I'll have to take off the mediums. And then when I do get a colony started, I try to get those mediums into a medium when I put a medium on there, and then I'll add deep frames into the deep. So it's kind of a hassle, but that's what happens, okay? Thank you.